Hey guys, Terps for Dummies here. We're going to have a casual video today just chatting about Thc-A. I've had several questions on Twitter about that. There's a lot of confusion in general with Thc-A. I can't even say that, like myself included. I was definitely a little perplexed by some of the legal mumbo-jumbo going on here. So with that being said, today's video is not 21 plus, today's educational, so cannabis education. Correct. If you want to sesh with me, I made a short just before this. Go ahead and watch that, come back, or afterwards, go ahead and watch that. Either way, we're going to be chatting, and that's it today. With that all being said, Thc-A is in a weird spot as a whole with cannabis. It's caused a bit of infighting and a lot of questioning when it comes to being a consumer and what is safe and what isn't. And so I guess the easiest way to put it is it's a legal loophole. But with that, there's downsides, issues, and complications, all of the above, which everything when it comes to legalities always has that, which cannabis as a whole has always shown that. Loopholes and everything are not a new thing. K2 was, I believe, first starting to be majorly seen in places like New York back in the earlier 2000s. And so, you know, you've got a lot of these loophole systems that have existed for a while. Bath salts, obviously that's not cannabis, but this is how they were getting away with these things. And that's basically what's happening here. Thc-A, when you first grow a cannabis plant, for the most part, that's all it has is THC. It doesn't have THC, the psychoactive. When you're looking at things, most of the plant is a bunch of different cannabinoids, and we have cannabinoid receptors because obviously there's reasons for it to be there. We have some naturally occurring ones. There's cannabinoids in certain fruits and vegetables. These things are nothing new, but that's primarily what makes up the plant, is not THC, but all these other varieties of things in there. Obviously, you know about CBD, Delta-9, Delta-8, HHS, I believe it's called. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And what happened is in 2018, I believe it was, the Farm Bill got signed and altered a bit. It reclassified marijuana as the Schedule 1 prohibited drug, while hemp, you know, looking at things like, you know, there's hemp shirts, hemp buildings. You can use hemp for almost most things if you do it correctly, and could be cost effective if done right. This was kind of trying to push for that in making more business openness, especially with businesses now functioning with some states having marijuana legally. It was kind of a no-brainer, but the Farm Bill's always had a whole thing about 0.3% THC. There's been, you know, CBD with no THC as long as it's under that. All sorts of different stuff that you're seeing in smoke shops specifically. And now you're seeing Thc-A. And so as long as it has 0.3 under the THC amount, then it's fine. It can be on the market. And what that's causing is you're having, I mean, it is marijuana. It's not a sprayed plant. It's not other, I guess what I would say is most things like Delta-9, Delta-8, HHS, these are lab-made chemicals, RCs, research chemicals. People might know that term. These are things that are not naturally derivative, and while if they are, this is not naturally being made and sold. While Thc-A is naturally forming, it's all there in your bud. When you go to the dispensary and purchase bud that has THC writing on it, that it also is primarily Thc-A, because it's the conversion rate. That's why there's Thc-A diamonds, which used to be really popular, is that when you combust it, you heat it up, whether that with the banger or a lighter or whatever, it does convert, and that's where a majority of our THC conversion occurs. So it's kind of snaking its way through that. And that's the simple of it. There's really not more that needs to be said. There's a whole bunch of legal mumbo jumbo, and the main gist of it is it does allow for some bad players, products that aren't actually THCA, so people playing under a guise to get through the bill, using other chemicals, specifically these things that where you're seeing multiple, like Delta 9, all these smashed up things. That can be a little concerning in my opinion, because you're looking at a lot of different chemicals that do not have backing on long-term use, how it affects you, things like that. And so you're not going to have the same comparison that we know what THC does for the most part to most consumers. And the other thing to keep in mind is this has allowed the market for K2 to rise again, alternatives to marijuana, which is a bit concerning as a whole, because if anyone's seen anything up in London, it was a massive issue. London, the UK in general, I believe, spice, zombies, whatever. There's all sorts of issues with these things. And so if you're going to buy THCA, make sure you're researching. I don't know of a single THCA company that I would trust. You know, you've got a lot of the weed tubers that are producing it, and it makes sense. You've got a name, you've got an easily accessible legal business that you don't need as you can get an agricultural license, I believe, a hemp license, and that's way cheaper than going and getting the licensing and education for doing medical marijuana, the testing. There's a lot more deep dive into it. And another thing you'll notice, in my opinion, while the bud looks great, I'll pop a picture up here. This is from Goblin's THCA site, I believe Only Gas. No recommendation, just that's where I got this image. You can see that the bud looks great. This is actually, you know, structurally identical to a THC bud because they're the same thing basically. But a big thing with THCA is towards the very last bit of the life cycle where the plant isn't putting as much attention into things, the sun's hitting it more if it's an outdoor or indoor, the light's causing different effects, which is causing THC to be created through, I believe, it breaking down and everything. It's an acid. That's what it happens. THCA gets hit with an acid, turns into THC. That's the gist of it. They cut these plants early so that they don't hit that point where THC does start to develop, because it's very minimal, but it is enough to trigger that 0.3%. So they cut it early, so you're getting slightly earlier buds, and that's not the worst thing, but I have heard it can affect terpenes and some of your flavor profiles. And in my opinion, I'm a big cannabis concentrate consumer. That's my main thing. And at least from my research, generally it runs a decent bit for any of the concentrates. And the reason for that is you can't, from what I understand, the returns on THCA bud, because it's pulled early, it's quite minimal. So like when you're looking at the conversion ratio of taking like a pound of marijuana, just regular bud you grew, and then washing it, pressing it, getting it into the state where it is wax, or purging it if you're doing BHO or other solvent-based marijuanas, your concentrates, you're looking at quite a big ratio of loss, I guess, in weight, you would say. When you take all just the little bits off them buds and make it the nice little things that we smoke, you're not getting much in return overall. So say you're really lucky, you might get a 30% return on a yield on a wash or whatever. And with that, THCA, from what I understand, you're looking at a much smaller return on that. So if you do a pound, I think you're looking at closer to 8% to 15% of a yield. So they have to burn through a lot more of this bud to create the wax, which in turn makes the wax cost more. I don't know how I feel about that, because in my opinion, bud and concentrate should be pretty equal. Give me 1 second. Yeah, the yields aren't great on THCA, which causes them to have to make the prices quite high. I'm not a big fan of that. I think bud and concentrate, with the fact that this is a plant, this is agriculture at its finest, unless you're looking at more of the scientific and going for making something that's really new and different than something else by using some new technique or something, then that'd be amazing. But with a lot of the current laws, you can't, from what I understand, get super crazy with it. You kind of have to stay in a bubble to make sure you're following the rules. And that's why in the black market, you're really seeing where the limits are pushed. They're really trying to make things different and special. And they're things like champs, and champs is a glass competition. What am I saying? What is it called? The competition that just happened. Hash Bash. Hash Bash, you're looking at mostly, I'm sure some of these people have licenses, but I believe it's mostly black market that is in there, unless they just are making good stuff. Or I could be wrong. Maybe they're all medical. I don't fucking know. But in my opinion, black market is generally where you're seeing people push it, trying their best, because you can't have poor rapport when it comes to your product. If people think you're selling mold or you're selling pesticides, they're not going to consume it. While your average consumer that's purchasing things like Thc-A, they're not looking in depth at what is in these things. They're less, don't get me wrong, the black market has bad players too. So you have to be a smart consumer at the end of the day. Research what you're purchasing if you can. If it's black market, know who you can trust. There's things how this all works, and it has for a long time. Be safe. That's the main thing. In this modern world of marijuana, there's so many options, and there's so many good ones. That's what's really incredible about the modern times. Back when, you hear about OG strains, people, oh, things aren't the same. Back in the day, there was mainly 20 strains anyone gave a shit about. Anything else would just be shit that people were making, and that was okay because it was illegal and people had their favorites, and unless it was some big new thing, no one really cared too much. That's not true. People like the strains and it was hard to cultivate that knowledge, pass it down when someone's producing it, several states away. They might not tell every person that changes hands, things like that. So names proliferated differently back then, but these strains are still around. They're still you can go to the store, pick it up. If you're looking for specific flavor profiles and cannabis, then definitely the legal, modern, medical, and recreational market is amazing for that. You have pins, drinks, edibles, it's all there, but you're being taxed. When it comes to a storefront, if you've ever worked in retail or in general business, you rotate stock. So your newest stuff sits in the back, the oldest stuff is in the front. So what you're buying is not going to be fresh. It's not going to be new. That's another thing that just the markets move differently. These are big industry versus small industry. It's a natural way of these things. Everything has a give and take, and that's just how it works. But being able to select and know that these things are safe and regulated is quite a nice experience, and can definitely leave some of the worries out of the situation, especially when it comes to concentrates, because quality can be difficult. If you don't know what to look for, quality can be really hard to find. With that, that's kind of my little rant about Thc-A, kind of opinions, mix of what's just happening there. So if you've been a little confused about it, don't blame you. A lot of people were. Myself, I was a little confused because when you can't, there's just so many things with it. Thc-A has been a known thing for a long time, and the fact that it's now just being used as a loophole definitely throws the normal jargon a little funky. So with that, we're all up to date. We all know what Thc-A is. It's a legal loophole that gives you kind of mixed results on what you're going to receive. Make sure you're looking at what you're going to be purchasing if that's what you're after. I've only tried Thc-A once or twice, and I've never had great results with it. But I've never really seeked it out either. Purchase what you can get that's accessible and safe. That's my biggest recommendation. Have a great day. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say about it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. If this is your first time, maybe leave a like, subscribe, whatever. That stuff. Check out some of my past videos. There you can actually sesh and stick around. I chat about a lot of things. Be careful with just going for brand recognition as well. We have a lot of faces in this space that are obviously pushing product, and we've even had issues with some of these creators and their products that they push. But some others I've never heard an issue with. So research what you're going to purchase. I don't even know exactly what to look for. I know you can generally, if they're really well and doing what they should be doing, they should have testing available. You should be able to make sure that there's no bad pesticides being left over, things like that. Backpack Boys is a big, everyone knows that one, that they have pesticides in their wax and their pens. There's certain companies that you can just know aren't the best to go for. Sometimes it's harder with others. Be careful, do your best. There's I believe Puffco did a video where they explain like, oh, look for charts. Some other people say look for just generally how the bud's grow, and if it looks nice and it looks like it's something you'd want to smoke, then it's probably fine. You never know in this day and age, though. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for spending some time with me and talking about this. I'll be coming back around soon with something new and something for us to do. Have a good one, guys. Peace. Don't forget to go to Instagram, Twitter, follow over there. Twitch is the same as Instagram. I might try to make a TikTok soon. There's a giveaway that's happening over on Instagram, so if you want to get on that, it's a hat. It's a pretty cool hat. There's a short somewhere. I'm not going to link that one, but, or if I do, I don't. Either way, there's a hat I'm giving away that I made. Yeah. Follow that stuff. Peace.